Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let's go ahead and wrap up my reading from the month of August and just August in general. And I have to start off by saying I did not read a whole lot in August. The quick version of the story is I went on vacation. I thought I would read and I didn't. If you want a little bit of a longer explanation, you can check out my video, Vacation Destroyed My TBR. But I did get a little bit of reading done and I did check off one monster of a book. But before we get to that one, the first thing that I finished this month was Neon Ghost by Daniel Green. I ended up having a really good time with this. I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect when I was going into it. I thought it would be at least okay, but I actually really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it a pretty solid 4-star rating. There are definitely problems with it. I think the characterization is still a little bit lacking, but the world is what really carried me through with this book. I thought the world was super fascinating. I just happen to be a big fan of mega structures in general, and so that being the main setting of this book just really worked well for me, and overall was pleasantly surprised and pretty happy with it. And that's always good news when you have the special edition that looks all nice. So I was pretty happy with that. Now, technically, I have not finished this book just yet, but I will finish it before the month of August is over, and I'm so glad to finally say that I will be finishing Memories of Ice in August. This has been a long time coming. This is a book that I have taken multiple breaks on. And in general, for the Malazan fans out there, I think this is probably going to end up being my favorite of the series. I think it's going to just edge out Gardens of the Moon. Was not the biggest fan of Dead House Gates. I think it's probably going to end up being, like I said, a 4-star, so just above Gardens of the Moon. And it's probably going to end up being my book of the month. While I did like Neon Ghost, I think Memories of Ice is something special. And so I think I'm going to end up going ahead and giving it that, even though I have not finished it yet. So unless something crazy happens in the end that completely turns this book into a dud for me, which I don't foresee happening. I actually think by the end of it, I'm actually going to probably want to bump it up my rankings a little bit. I'm pretty happy with my experience with this overall. I will say it wasn't the easiest journey. It's taken me a long time. It's a book that I feel like I have to put a decent amount of effort into to get stuff out of it, but so much happens in this book and it's been quite the ride. I'm glad to finally be finishing it up, and it should be a pretty interesting ending from some of the things that I think are going to happen. I do want to say this, I don't think I am Malazan literate yet. I've been thinking about a good way to put this, and the best analogy I can come up with is after Gardens of the Moon, I was like the person who thought they could speak Spanish, but in reality, all I could say was like, hello, and where's the bathroom? After Dead House Gates, I felt like I was maybe at like the level of like a 2-year-old babbling. At this point with Malazan, I feel like I am the kind of person, if we're gonna continue with this strange language analogy I'm rocking with, is I feel like I could understand every single thing somebody says to me in another language, but I couldn't say a lot of it back. So like my comprehension would be at a normal level, but my ability to say something back to you is like at a 5th grade level, maybe. And I think one thing that has made me realize that is I am doing like a vlog for this. It's a spoiler-filled vlog where I'm kind of taking breaks after 20-ish% of each section of the book and talking about it. And I've realized that like I can think of things that had happened, but I would really need somebody to help me pull out that information for me to really kind of express how I feel completely. So I think that's kind of where I am at with that series right now. A little bit of a long tangent there for Memories of Ice, but like I said, probably will end up being my book of the month, will probably end up being a 4-star, and that will be the last thing and only the second thing I finished reading in the month of August for novels. I did read some manga that I'll get to here in a little bit later. Now, while I didn't get a whole lot of reading done, I did have something very exciting happen to me this month. I was over on Brian's channel, BellTube, and we had a great discussion. It was an awesome time, had a really good time. And in that chat happened to be Janny Wurts, and apparently she had been trying to get in contact with me for a little while, and she ended up sending me a care package. And she has quickly become one of my favorite authors, and so to get that interaction was just awesome, and she was super nice and sent me some books, and so I'll just quickly show that off real quick. I feel super lucky. Here's my little pitch for Wars of Light and Shadow. If you haven't read it yet, I think you should absolutely give it a try. It is not a series that's going to hold your hand, much like Malazan. I think if you are a Malazan person, you understand like the scale of a story and how it builds slowly and all of those things, all those complexities. I think you should at least give the series a try. It is big, it is epic, there's a lot going on, and it is not, like fed you like a baby bird. So go into it with that. And I will also say that the first book now does have an audio version. I don't know if the rest of them, I think the most recent book, the newest one, also has an audio version. I don't know if in between the rest of them are going to get it, but if you want to at least dip your toes into the series to see if you like it, there is an audio version for Curse of the Mist Wraith, which is the first book. So, you can at least give it a try there. If not, you can read it if you're more of a reader. But she sent me this. This is kind of the the structure of the story, which I knew it was separated into arcs. I didn't know exactly where the arcs were, so that is a pretty nice little piece of information that I'll make sure to use. She sent me an e-copy of The Gallant, and I haven't read this yet. I plan on reading it in September, and I'm really interested to see if I think, after I read this, if this is actually a better entry point for the series than the first book, The Curse of the Mistwraith. This takes place, I forget if it's 600 or so years, 500 or so years before the start of Curse of the Mistwraith. And so it's only like 100 pages long. I'll be really curious on if I think this is a better way to dip your toes into the story, or if just going straight into the series and then reading this later is a better way to do it. But she also sent me a copy of To Ride Hell's Chasm. This is a standalone series. I've heard a lot of praise for it. There's a bunch of people who have really enjoyed this and really liked it. I'm excited to get to it. I don't know exactly when I will. It'll be sooner than later because I'm trying to read a few of her other standalones. There's this, and I just read The Master of Whitestorm, which is another kind of like fun sword and sorcery one, but it's a little bit deeper than that. And then there's this one, and then there's one other one that I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, but I kind of want to read this and that before I get back to Wars of Light and Shadow. But super nice, new copy here. And then she did send me a couple books from the Wars of Light and Shadow. So this is, book 4? Yeah. Which it depends. That's a funny thing with this series. Depending on, I think, where you get it, I think the UK combines the Ships of Merior and the Warhorse of Vastmark together. So depending, this is like book 4 or 5, I think, depending on how you look at the series. Yeah, and so this is Peril's Gate, which says it's book 3, but I think technically if you look at it, it's book 6, but it's like book 3 of the 3rd arc or something like that. But once again, a very nice copy. And then here's another one, Grand Conspiracy. Again, super nice copy, super thankful. They're signed and everything. And yeah, that was just such an unexpected treat that I just wanted to talk about it here. I know people like a good book haul. And so that is kind of my book haul from Janny Wurts. Super excited. I do think you should read some of her stuff. Her writing is unlike anything else. She is up there with my favorite, like actual, the words themselves, the prose themselves. She's up there with like Ernest Hemingway as like my favorite actual writer. So it's, I think you should give her a chance if you haven't yet. And if you are just here for the novels, that is it. But I am going to go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the other stuff I finished up this month, and we're going to talk about some of the manga. So the big thing here in the manga world is a bunch of series are ending, and the one that I'm probably the most attached to of the ones that are ending is My Hero Academia. The last chapter came out early August, like the first weekend of August or something like that. I read it, and overall, I mean, it was an okay chapter. It was an okay ending. I think endings in general are kind of overrated, so I think this probably hurts other people more than it hurts me. But I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I thought it could have been done better. I feel like parts of it were rushed. I don't think you really got a lot of things that fans of the series wanted. I do definitely think that we are going to be seeing more from this series. I find it hard to believe that we're not going to get any more My Hero Academia content because it is just such a popular series, and I feel like Shonen Jump's going to want to keep it going. If they have kept the corpse of Boruto alive at this point, I don't see how My Hero doesn't get some more stuff going for it. But like I said, overall, meh ending. There's a lot of highs in that series. There's a lot of things I really like. It is an interesting world. The quirks, I still find the magic of the superheroes to be pretty interesting. But yeah, in general, I am glad it's done. I feel like it ran its course, and it would have really needed to pivot to kind of a new story. And I think the best way to do that is honestly in a new manga. I'm not sure how I feel about the time jump and some of the stuff that's happening, but if another series comes out, I will at least give it a chance, and I'll probably end up reading it all. I'm still reading Boruto, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not that negative on Boruto, but I'm also not the biggest fan of some of the stuff that has been happening there. But other than that, I'm just kind of caught up on a couple of my other series. Black Clover is in its final stages. I'm caught up with that. I've mentioned Boruto. I'm caught up on that as well. I need to continue on with my Dragon Ball Z reread. I'm still in the early parts of the Cell Saga, which has just been fantastic. Rereading Dragon Ball Z has been one of the best things I have done. It's one of those nostalgic series that I hadn't reread or watched anything since I was much younger, and going back and reading it now, it still completely holds up for me. I don't know if other people will think it's not necessarily the deepest series, but there is so much that I don't know, it just kind of perfectly encapsulates what I really want from manga. I feel like when I read manga, I want something different than I want from my novels, and I think that's a completely okay thing that Dragon Ball Z is able to deliver on. I'm going to continue with Kaiju number 8 at some point, and also One Piece at some point. I am still early on in the Alabasta arc, which everybody keeps telling me is like one of the best arcs, and that's really where you'll get hooked. So hopefully that is the case for me. If not, it'll probably just be one of those series that I read a little bit at a time and bounce on and off of pretty regularly. Honestly, with the news that the new anime is coming out, it almost makes me want to stop reading the manga and just watch that as it comes out. The pacing's going to be correct, basically, with the new anime series. I don't think they're redoing much other than, they're not going to drag things out for 100 chapters because they don't know how to pace the series, even though, who knows, they might end up still catching up with it anyways. Let's move on to some TV, movie, video games talk quickly. I watched the new Godzilla King Kong movie. I forget exactly what it's called. And I thought it was okay. I prefer much more the Shin Godzilla, Godzilla -1 kind of Godzilla movies. I'm a big Godzilla fan, so those are definitely the stories that I like more. But I think these MonsterVerse Godzilla movies definitely have a place. They're something different. They're kind of that big blockbuster CGI monstrosities that don't really have the best characters or the best story, but you're still going to have Godzilla and King Kong going at it or going at, fighting CGI monsters. And in general, good enough. It's one of those universes that I am invested in enough that when I saw it on HBO, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and watch it. On the TV front, I have not really watched any TV. Need to get back to watching Shogun. I think I'm 2 episodes into that. But the big thing with TV is football is back. I am a huge football fan. I'm actually recording this right now at halftime of the North Dakota State and Colorado game. And I want to get back to see if Colorado chokes this away. Well, technically they're down right now, but if they choke this game away against an FCS school, will be fascinating to see there. I'm mostly an NFL guy, but some of the big college matchups I still get into. I don't actually have a college team, so I just kind of bandwagon here and there to certain teams, which is always fun to mess with some of my friends who are die-hard college fans, and I can just pick whoever they're losing to that week and really give them a hard time. It's great. I am a Steelers fan though, so that will be interesting. Brandon Ayuk is not coming to the Steelers, unfortunately, honestly, I had mixed feelings about that anyway, because I didn't really want him for I think what the asking price would have been, which would have been at least the first round pick. I was definitely against that. But this is not a football channel, so I will move on from that. And the big video game news for me is pretty much right now the only video game I play is Genshin Impact. I do not do any of the gacha elements, if you're familiar with that game, but I do get excited for the new expansion. And so I think the new world, or the new part of the world, looks interesting. I haven't really played all that much, but I think it will be cool, and I'm excited to explore Natlan. It should be at least interesting. It's different enough already. So there's some new mechanics into the game that we'll see how I feel after I play with them a little bit. But that was my month of August. I hope you had a good month. Definitely let me know what you read, watched, played, all of that stuff down below in the comments. I'd love to have a chat with you down there. But that's all for me. And as always, have a good one.